This week we are going to revisit a case that was covered in an earlier episode but contains some new information. This is the case of the half-trained nurse who took the life of 7 infants in Mississippi. On May 7, 2018, nurses were getting ready to start their shift at the University of Mississippi Medical Center in Jackson. It was just an average day like any other day. That would soon change. At around 6 a.m., a night shift nurse named April Scott walked into the pediatric intensive care unit and began giving report to the day shift nurses. During report, April told the nurses that she had given to patients the wrong medication. One patient was baby Darius Lacey. He was only 3 days old and had been admitted to the hospital after suffering from breathing difficulties. The second patient was baby King Aguilar, also only 3 days old. He had been admitted for the same reason as Darius. Both babies were being treated for respiratory syncytial virus. As far as anyone knew, both babies were doing well. They were stabilized and ready to be discharged. After giving report, April headed home. Later that morning, nurses in the PICU started preparing the babies for discharge. They drew up the medication that they needed to administer to the babies. One of those medications was a sedative called Versed, which is commonly used to calm patients before procedures or surgery. Before giving the medication, the nurse double-checked the orders and confirmed that they were correct. They then gave the dose to baby Darius and baby King. Just a few minutes later, both babies went into cardiac arrest. Nurses rushed to the baby's side, but there was nothing they could do. Both babies were dead. As news of the tragedy spread through the hospital, doctors and nurses were confused. Why did these babies go into cardiac arrest? Was it something that they missed during rounds? No, the attending physician said. We didn't see anything like that coming. To this day, no one knows exactly what happened. But what we do know is that the medication that the nurses gave the babies was supposed to be saline solution. Instead, they accidentally administered 10 milligrams of Versed to each baby, enough to put a grown man under. After the medication was administered, nurses looked at the 4 bags. They realized they had been switched. Someone had put a Versed solution into the saline for bags. Nurses immediately sounded the alarm. Doctors and administrators raced into the PICU. Soon, the entire floor was bustling with activity as everyone tried to figure out how this could have happened. A code gray was called, meaning that there had been an incident of medication error. Administrators contacted the police. At first, the hospital was not sure if this was an inside job or if someone had tampered with the 4 bags from outside the hospital. They couldn't think of a single reason why someone would want to harm the babies. There was no history between the babies and the suspected perpetrator. These babies were completely innocent. The case would soon take a dark turn. As word of the tragedy spread throughout the hospital, more victims came forward. 3 more babies had gone into cardiac arrest and died after being given the wrong medication. On May 9th, 2 more babies died. On May 10th, 1 more baby died. And on May 11th, another baby died. 7 babies were now dead and 8 had survived. Who was responsible? Administrators started digging through the records, looking for a common denominator. As they dug deeper, they found the common denominator. All 7 babies had been under the care of the same nurse, April Scott. She had worked at the medical center since 2014. She was responsible for giving all 7 babies the wrong medication. In the aftermath, many people wanted answers. How could someone intentionally harm so many babies? Why would anyone target these babies? And why did she stop at the 8th baby? Did something happen that made her stop? Unfortunately, the only person who can answer those questions is April herself. And she has never spoken a word publicly about what happened. She was arrested on 7 counts of manslaughter and taken to jail. Her bond was set at $1 million. A grand jury indicted her on 7 counts of depraved heart murder. Investigators never found a clear motive. They searched her house and combed through her personal belongings, but they never found anything that explained why she would do such a thing. Her coworkers and supervisors said that she seemed normal. She didn't seem depressed, angry, or upset. She seemed to love her job. In fact, she was known as the go-to nurse in the PICU. When a patient was sick and no one could figure out what was wrong, they sent for April. Her instincts were almost supernatural. The PICU staff considered her to be a hero. Now, investigators had no doubt that April was responsible for the tragedy, but they still had to prove it. They wanted physical evidence to connect her to the crime. So they looked at the footage from the hospital security cameras. What they found shocked them. On May 7th, the day the tragedy occurred, April drove to work in a white van. Her partner was riding with her. April was driving. At some point, she stopped the car and went inside a business. The place she stopped at was a Dollar General store. She entered the store and picked up some items. Then she returned to her vehicle and drove to the hospital. Security footage showed her arriving at work at 5:56 a.m. What April picked up at the Dollar General would change everything. Investigators obtained a search warrant and searched her vehicle. They found a receipt from the Dollar General that showed that April purchased 2 bottles of saline solution and a bottle of Versed. She bought these at 5:09 a.m., only 7 minutes before she arrived at the hospital. Investigators also learned that April bought cleaning supplies and trash bags. With the receipt in hand, investigators headed over to the medical center. They examined the 4 bags. The contents were consistent with what April purchased at the Dollar General. Not only did they have the receipts, but they also had witnesses who saw April carrying the saline for bags into the hospital. They had her on camera purchasing the drug that she used to kill the babies. April was charged with taking the life of 7 babies and trying to take the life of 8 others. She was convicted and sentenced to life in prison without parole. We don't know why she committed the crimes. Maybe she snapped one day and decided to go on a killing spree. Maybe she hated her job and wanted to send a message. Whatever her reasons were, she will spend the rest of her life behind bars. After the trial, the family of the victims sued the hospital. They alleged that the hospital was negligent and responsible for the deaths. After years of fighting, the hospital agreed to pay the families a settlement of $21 million. Since this case, the hospital has been working hard to prevent another tragedy like this from happening. They installed new safety measures to make sure that the right medication goes to the right patient. They also reached out to the families of the victims, offering their condolences and support. This case is a stark reminder of the importance of double-checking your work. Nurses are trained to save lives, not take them. But mistakes happen. And sometimes those mistakes are deadly. What do you think caused April to commit these crimes? Let me know in the comments. That's all for this episode. I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please hit the like button. I'll see you next time.